everybody. Welcome to the Judging Deliberations of the Games vs. Nazis live stream. I am Xibanya, and I'm joined here by the rest of your esteemed judges, including FloppyAdult.
Hello.
And Marben.
G'day, everyone.
RedStapler.
Hello.
SnowSchu.
Hi.
And TerminationShock.
Hello.
And the first category we're going to be looking at this evening is Best Art. So I just want to hear from everybody who they thought ought to win. And we can go from there. I see that we've got, let's see, 3 nominations to start with, and we can introduce more. I see here Despair, The World is Gonna Roll You, Tiny Nazi Tactics, and Antifa Punch Cannon. So, SnowSchu, you nominated Despair. Can you tell us why you think that one should win Best Art?
I thought it was just super solid. I just had the page up so I could look at it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That one had some of the greatest polish of all the games submitted.
My big mention was just that there was it has like a legit logo for one. It's pretty dope.
That was a very cool logo.
Yeah, and I thought that the Earth was really solid, and it just all worked together. I just liked it.
Yeah, it definitely looked professional, like a game you would buy on Steam or something.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that game had really nice art. Fluidity of animation was nice too. So
it's very cohesive art style as well. All the way from the title screen to just every single sprite, it all meshed well together.
Definitely. Well, does anyone want to bring up a game that you think might have done better, might be in contention for that? I would definitely want to put forward as at least a competitor In Der Fuhrer's Face by Harold Krell. Because that one...
That was, yeah.
It didn't have...
That was real.
It didn't have as many assets, but what it had was extremely effective.
I did like the Looney Tunes of, the fear and the punching. I just thought that it wasn't. I didn't nominate for that because I wasn't. It was just kind of not quite where my level is, and maybe I have higher expectations. But sure. I did compared to Despair. Despair was just much more visually appealing than In Der Fuhrer's Face.
Yeah, In Der Fuhrer's Face had a very nice animation, but it felt a little bit sparse to me. Like, it gave you as much information as you needed, but, I mean, art-wise, it's a very juicy punch, but that's, I mean, as much as I could see out of it. For me, it's a very visceral punch, but I think it's probably better under the best punch category.
All right.
Yeah, if you look at the two of them, if you look at Despair, it has nice backgrounds in addition to the characters In Der Fuhrer's Face. Well, it's got the great characters in there. Your background is really plain. I mean, like you said, it's just basic. It gives you basic what you need, and it's really nice in doing that. But it doesn't have anything else in it.
And then FloppyAdult, you nominated Tiny Nazi Tactics.
I did. Yeah, I think I'll say this. Like, I will probably not breathlessly defend any of my games for best art in my block, just because I don't know. I didn't even nominate anybody in best audio because I didn't super enjoy anything that I heard in my block. But for Tiny Nazi wow
words
Tiny Nazi Tactics. I enjoyed the simple sprites. I enjoyed the fluidity of animation. I enjoyed aspects of the background that you can kind of hide behind. It was kind of an interesting mix of stuff. I don't know if I liked it as much as some other games from other blocks in terms of art, but out of my block, I thought it was at least the most technically impressive. The big issue is that the spawn point of projectiles is basically like everybody's toes, which probably honestly could have been fixed in the time frame that they had. But I mean, the fluidity of animation, it was kind of a peppy art style which like lent itself well to the action oriented nature of the game. So in that respect, I thought it actually did the best job. But other games from my block like didn't have a ton working for them. So I don't know. I don't want to say Tiny Nazi Tactics was a default win, but it was also like maybe less impressive than some other stuff I saw.
Well, I may be getting confused, but I also think the art from Tiny Nazi Tactics was from Open Game Art. I'm not too sure.
Ah, okay. I mean, that might explain how good they got the sprite animation like in a week, because it was really bouncy. I don't know, but that would be my nomination.
And well, I think we're pretty much in agreement that Despair, The World Is Gonna Roll You, has the best art. But we still need to decide a runner-up. And one game we haven't mentioned yet that I think should at least be considered for runner-up would be Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That was pretty great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the art style of that. Good like art direction in terms of kind of getting that punk rock feel down. So yeah, I enjoyed that art.
Especially all the other assets that were involved in there. Yeah. Like there was just a lot in there, and then they did pretty well for a week.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like a very complete game in a way that not all of the games submitted, even speaking art-wise.
It definitely, it looked really good, especially not just the art itself, but the way they put it together, like the speed lines for the final battle, or even the animation where the musicians get taken out by the punks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
You know, what do the rest of y'all think ought to be the runner-up for best art?
Well, you put in AFTA Punch Cannon for your category.
Yeah.
Both of the Pico 8 games looked really slick.
Do you want to defend it? I mean, you nominated it.
I actually, if we're picking a runner-up for art, would be more inclined to support Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon.
Okay.
Likewise.
All right, then.
I'm
cool with that.
I want to at least put in a little bit of an honorable mention to Tactics, a visual novel, because while it wasn't like the most impressive art, like they still put in a lot of effort to draw out a lot of those characters.
Yeah, for what I assume is like a very first ever game, like it was a lot better than other first games that I have seen.
Yeah, I will say, given it looks like it's the first game they made and they hadn't done that kind of art before, I definitely applaud them. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put down Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon as the runner-up for best art.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so now we're looking at who should be the winner of best audio.
I really enjoyed the audio in Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon, especially like that last boss fight where you got like that punk track playing in the background. That was very cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I agree. All the music was very appropriate and on point.
Yeah, I would say that one as well. Just the style of music felt so good with the rest of that gameplay.
Mm-hmm. I actually wonder if he himself is a punk rocker or has friends who punk rock.
I believe the game dev said that they were a punk, or one of the game devs. See, the names of the people in Itch didn't necessarily match up to the names of the people in Discord, but there was definitely somebody in Discord who was talking about being legit punk Antifa, and somebody in the Twitch chat was saying that game was made by actual punks, so it might be the same person.
All right. That's extra sweet if they recorded if they had
legitimate punk
music.
Yeah,
that they recorded.
Although I will bring up again Enderfuhrer's face for
Enderfuhrer's face.
Not only the music being very appropriate and the way it was used being very appropriate, how it's sped up over time, but the little touch of when he blocks you, when he says like Heil Hitler or 9, that was really well done.
9.
Actually, yeah, that was I'd completely forgotten about that part. That was
because that's like
very slick.
Some very, very excellent minimalist sound design.
Mm-hmm. We should just put Enderfuhrer's face as best of Jan runner-up. Because like we like to nominate him for all these other categories. It's like
we're only 2 in. I don't know. So I haven't heard from TerminationShock or RedStapler about best audio. Do y'all have any opinions?
I chimed in on Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon. I thought that one was just solid. I thought the music was great with the gameplay.
I really liked the audio in Axis of Getting Punched. That had it was just really good composition. It was very epic.
That one I was less enchanted by.
Okay.
The Axis of Getting Punched, the audio in that one, because I don't recall there being anything really specific in terms of sound effects.
That's true. I'm just thinking more in terms of like the music for it, or it was very. It fit the whole. I'm Winston Churchill's fist punching Nazis.
Wow.
It had that like, God Save the Queen kind of horn section to it.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm inclined to say that it sounds like we're leaning Beating Assholes in Some Dungeon as the winner of Best Audio with Ender Fuhr's Face as the runner-up. Is that correct?
I would say yes. I really enjoyed the compositions in Assholes in the Dungeon.
Yeah, I would agree with those as well.
Agreed.
I think that's a good pair for that category. The audio was just great on both of those games.
Yeah, and the disparity is pretty huge. Honestly, it's like those two had like good audio that I'm curious about, like who did that, and like what are they up to as game developers. And a lot of other stuff just didn't really put any attention onto that, which is not surprising. I mean, audio is really like one of the last things that a lot of devs think about. So,
Well, if you're not familiar, so I know Marben and I are both familiar with the work of Harold Krell, but if you're not, I really recommend checking out his games because he's really good at making games that are really small, but every single aspect of them is just perfect. So this was no exception.
Lovingly detailed. Yeah, it's good.
So now we're on Best Nazi Punch, and this is sort of a funny category because it's a bit of a. It means whatever you want it to mean. So probably whichever one had the most satisfying Nazi punch.
Yeah. I'm a little bit torn on this one because the one from my block, Punch a Nazi, I really enjoyed that there was a variety of Nazis to punch, but In the Fuhr's Face is probably the juiciest punch, and for me that kind of is the takeaway. Like it's the punch that feels the most satisfying, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I agree. It's because of the combination of animation and the audio of that game.
Effects, yeah.
Although I will say
the squish, that little like the way he bends as he gets decked is just so satisfying.
Yeah.
Makes me sound like a psychopath when I say that as well.
I mean, it is a Punch Nazis jam, so.
It's true.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah, I'll say out of my block, I really liked Super Fast Bash just because it was, that little Pico 8 game. It was just that it had that satisfaction of jumping in and punching Hitler on that one. But Interferer's Face it's just such an amazing game.
Yeah, I did like Super Fast Bash was definitely a game that really sold it because of that sort of the momentum of your little Pico 8 guy, but then also the intersitional still really sold it.
Yeah, that little bit of pop up was really, really, really good.
I had Interviewer's Face, of course, but we all know it's like a great punch. I liked it.
Well, let's see. So I'm thinking the winner's probably Interferer's Face with Super Fast Bash as runner-up. Oh, you've got a different idea.
I did want to... No, I just kind of like...
No, speak up, you're a judge.
Yeah, I think what one was it? I kind of liked Dream Punch, even though it wasn't like massive. It's more like he's kicking the Nazi, supposedly. I just thought that was super satisfying. He just goes, wee!
That was fun. I think one of the reasons why it didn't occur to me to nominate that was...
that was the juggling one, right?
Yeah, that was the juggling one. Well, now I'm trying to justify my position of... I feel like
it was
the
great.
impact
Just wasn't
lacked that drama.
Meatiness.
Yes.
There wasn't enough impact for you punching him. It just kind of...
It was it was like juggling or bouncing, and it didn't feel like a solid thwack, I guess.
I had hitter in my thing, and I don't think it belongs in the top two. I don't. But what I will say about it is, I'll never know what it was like to punch Hitler, or I probably won't be involved in an actual Nazi fist fight unless I just start like going to a lot of rallies, which like is totally possible, honestly. But I don't hit very hard, so it's probably best left to other people. But in terms of putting me in a position to punch the closest thing in my vicinity, which are tweets from awful people, that was actually really sad. That was really satisfying.
I can agree with that.
It was like it feels like the thing I can do now. You know, it's not like a fantasy. It felt really good to actually do that to something that I see every day. So probably a better pitch for when you get to Best of Jam, but I did think that visceral physics punch of punching this like shitty tweet was really fun.
You also had that mechanic of knocking one into another.
Yeah. I think like in some ways I'm also like projecting a little bit. Like I you know, if they'd fleshed out a lot of those mechanics more, I'm kind of like thinking about how that would be and getting excited about it. But it wasn't actually what we got. So, you know, I just wanted to say I thought that was a really cool mechanic, really cool conceit. I don't know if it belongs in the top 2, but I just wanted to say that.
No, you make a good point. One thing that was a detriment of Hitter to me was the animation for punching didn't feel extremely forceful.
No, it was pretty like stock asset store kind of like easy kind of little punch thing. So yeah.
One thing that really works in favor of Super Fash Bash, even though it's a Pico 8 game, so they're working on these, you know, constraints as far as art goes, is the fact that you get that frame really sells the force of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a combination of both that you get that freeze frame of the Hitler punch and the shift in the gameplay where it speeds up after that.
In fact, I'm almost like I'm on the fence as to which one I would say has the best Nazi punch, Super Fash Bash or Ender Fuhrer's Face. I don't know. You guys got to help me out.
I'm personally in Fuhrer's Face camp, mostly because I played it, and I just found it very hilarious. I wasn't super impressed with Fash Bash. I mean, it was funny, but you still had to do it kind of over and over and over again, so you could get desensitized to it.
I think the controls in Super Fash Bash, where everything felt kind of slippery, kind of detracts from the feeling. Like, it feels really good when you get like a good run up and you got the momentum going, and you just run up and you just collide with Hitler. But I feel like in the Fuhrer's Face just made every single punch feel more meaty, whereas in Super Fash Bash, if you just approach like really slowly, it still counts as a win condition.
That's a good
point.
But
it's not as satisfying.
So I think
I would say the same. I mean, in Fuhrer's Face, it was just generally a more satisfying game. Some of that's because it had more ability to do stuff, but we're talking about what is the best Nazi punch, and it's not necessarily which one had limitations on it. Even if it had limitations, the better game is the better game, right?
Yes, I think it's clear that the winner of best Nazi punch is Ender Fuhrer's Face.
So there's a German word, Backpfeifengesicht.
Bless you.
That's amazing.
Backpfeifengesicht means face in need of a fist, and Ender Fuhrer's Face absolutely has Backpfeifengesicht. Like that art is just perfect for that.
And it really sells the impact as well.
All right. So yeah, Ender Fuhrer's Face, definitely winner of best Nazi punch. Who is our runner-up? Is it going to be Super Fash Bash, Hitter, or some other dark horse that appears last minute?
I do have a couple more honorable mentions.
All right, go for it.
Because everyone had a little bit of everything.
That's
so
true.
I really loved the moment in Let's Punch a Nazi, the Twine adventure, where he just punches him randomly. The character.
While you're deliberating the morality of it, yes.
Yes, that was super fun. And then Kick a Nazi's asked him 2K17. It wasn't the best, but it was definitely emotional in all of them. It was a very emotional game, and I just, while it wasn't
sincere entry.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it was a little bit too dark, but I still think it's worth mentioning that it was a very impactful experience.
That's true.
I don't know if anyone agrees.
I
hit me right in the
totally
feels.
agree with that kick a Nazi's ass simulator. That one that had a great impact. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best Nazi punch in it, but in terms of the overall impact of the game, that one was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of game that you'd see in like a 7th grade Holocaust class, like a history class about the Holocaust, where that would be like the kind of game where you're like, okay, we're going to talk about the morality of punching Nazis, and then you play that game, and it just sort of felt like the sort of game that I would have played in my 7th grade history class about the Holocaust.
Do you mean that in a good way or a bad way, or
in a good way? In a good way. It felt because it just there was a gravitas to it.
It's definitely
the other games didn't really have. It was just sort of, it was very clear that designer had an aim of making you think about this as opposed to, let's punch some pixels.
Yeah, it's definitely an emotionally manipulative game, and I don't mean that in a bad way because, any good author intentionally tries to manipulate, the way the viewer feels. But yeah, they definitely had an agenda, let's say. That's not a bad thing either. I don't know, guys. I'm still leaning towards, okay, so runner-up. I'm between Fash Bash and Hitter. Anybody else have input on that?
I think Hitter for the reasons stated before, just that it feels very emotionally satisfying to wreck some tweets.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess I will stand by it that I do think it is if gosh, now I've lost the name of it. The one we were just talking about, Interferer's Face.
Interferer's Face.
Yeah, it's like if that represents like one end of the spectrum of like, okay, I'm punching Hitler. Like Hitler is kind of like the more immediate, visceral response to the stuff that we're dealing with kind of every day. So I don't know. I feel like it's a good representation of every way to punch a Nazi. So yeah, maybe I would say that's number 2.
I think it's a very interesting take on what would probably be otherwise a very literal, punching Nazis kind of theme, and it's just very clever in the way it handles it.
I think for me, there was a variation on Hitter, which was the Nazis in the town square, where you had the Twitter feed, you had to find the Nazi and punch them. And I actually thought that was a better representation of that. Now, in Hitter's defense, I ran into a bug with it where the only thing my character would do was run backwards away from the tweets, which doesn't make it a very satisfying game.
Well, I'll say, as far as the game Hitter, I personally didn't actually have a lot of fun playing it, but I see how the symbolism of it can be very satisfying to a lot of people. Even though I was very bad at it, I actually had more fun playing Super Fash Bash.
I liked the frenetic energy of Super Fash Bash. There was sort of an energy to it that was a lot of fun. So
I can agree with that. It was definitely like a solid game overall. So it just kind of like it all kind of like fit together as you were playing it.
So I guess we'll have to decide on something. Although it's good that we sort of considered all the angles, but I'm going to lean towards Super Fash Bash as runner up.
Okay.
What do the rest of y'all think?
With that,
I'm good with Super Fash Bash, especially given that was my nomination for this category.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so that'll be the runner-up. Okay, so now we're on Best of Jam. This one will be tough, although I know for my part, I'm thinking not just the whole package, but also games that definitely had very good gameplay. And I'm seeing right off the bat, some of the nominees are Super Fash Bash, Hitter, Punch a Nazi. I nominated Super Nazi Puncher RPG. Anyway,
I really like that one. That one had a really good story built onto it.
Yeah, that one it didn't have the best art. It didn't have the best audio. It didn't even feature a Nazi punch per se, but I did have a damn good time playing it.
Yes, Mr. Kidders. He's always there.
Out of my group, I would also throw in the Kick a Nazi's Ass in 2K17. It was a dark game, but it really had all that impact in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think, for my block, Hitter, I think we've established why it didn't set the world on fire. But I think just the combination of central conceit and the execution of it within a week's time, and kind of just like you see one screenshot of it and you kind of understand the nature of it and why it would be viscerally interesting. I thought that clean package in a week was really impressive. So that's probably from my best of jam. I think I played other games outside my block that I appreciated more, but that was at least my block's probably best individual entry. So
I'm going to suggest as one thing, shoot Nazis with punches and catch them in a trash can, just because its gameplay was very inventive. It's a simple concept from a gameplay point of view, but something I hadn't seen before, and the visual metaphor is pretty funny.
I definitely agree. That was in my block, and I really, really enjoyed playing that game. Of the ones in my block, that's the one that, for me, had the most replay value, just because I like the mechanics of. I mean, the art was great, so I'll agree with that.
I got to say, my favorite of the entire roundup was Punch Nazi. I mean, obviously, there's a shower with your dad aspect of it, but I really enjoyed how there was a collection of mini games, and that they all like taught you, I guess, a skill, and then that all built up in the end, and you're given like this fake out ending, and then you got the real ending, and then everything that you'd done earlier in the game sort of came into play, and so it became this combination of the skills that you learned, kind of thing.
I enjoyed that one, although I feel like the Doom part was too underdeveloped to make the game seem really cohesive. Although I will say, I screamed with laughter when I saw the alternate reality where Jeb won. But then I think, would it be as funny?
That was really funny.
That was like a crowning moment of
it's very funny.
My experience in the gym. But would it still be as funny if I played the game again and again? I'm not sure. On the other hand, I love AFL and I would love to give him something. But at least we're talking nice things about him.
It's a very complete experience, but it's the kind of game that, I mean, you play once. Or twice, and beyond that, there's not much, replayability.
But again, it is a game jam game, so not sure how much that should go into it.
I should also bring up, since it's come up in every single category so far, Interferer's Face might be one we want to consider here.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe. I want to bring up beating assholes in some dungeon.
That one was really good too.
Just overall, it was pretty solid. I love how you were discovering elements along the way. It's like, oh my god, you can do this!
Yeah, that's some very solid mechanics.
Yeah, I think it is it's like, I don't know if this counts for much, but I do think the just the nature of like watching you play through it was really fun. That was like the most fun part of the stream. Was you barely made it to the boss, and it was actually really exciting to play, which I did, but also to kind of experience as a group that was actually really interesting. So, I don't know if that counts for much, but it did count
Best
for
streamability.
A little bit. Right.
It was a very full featured game. Like, it was the one that seemed closest to being shippable that I played.
Yeah,
I would agree there too. That game seemed like it had the most elements in it that were all cohesive as a single game, and all fit together in terms of their gameplay.
Right.
Yeah, I do feel like I support that one for Best of Jam.
Yeah.
Yep, I do as well.
Likewise.
All right. So Best of Jam is beating assholes in some dungeon, which means that let's see, Best Audio is End Your Fuhrer's Face. So cool. And that means, just to review, the Best of Jam is beating assholes in some dungeon. Best art is Despair the World is Gonna Roll You. And Best Audio and Best Nachi Punch is End Your Fuhrer's Face.
Yeah.
Woo.
Awesome. Yay, we did it. We judged all the games. Good job, everybody.
Yay, judging. High wing. High wing.
Yes. And good job to everybody who entered in the jam. I'm sure we'll have more jams to come, so I hope everybody enters in all of those as well.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if you were saying jams or games, and so like my brain just processed that as James as one word.
James.
James.
Can we make
Jams.
the James game jam?
We could do that, but only if we allow gyms to enter too.
Oh, Jimmy as well. Jim James, Chim Chim Charu.
Santiago. All right.
Stop it.
I think, all right, everybody say goodbye. It's time to say goodbye.
Bye.
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 See yous. Congrats to the winners.
Thanks for listening to our
Thanks for playing.
blabbers.